All right, welcome back to World of Pets podcast. We're honored to have a very special guest here tonight, Donald. He's a lawyer, and he is a bar associated lawyer. And so we look forward to this conversation. But before we get that going, Anthony, welcome as usual. I'm going to hit our sponsors real quick. That's debspets.com, DEBSPETS.com. And Emily Gomer, who is absent today, but she has her own podcast, World of Ability podcast on YouTube as well. So go check her out and give a like. Once you know what that channel's about, you'll understand why we're doing this one as well. So without further ado, Anthony, why don't you bring in Donald?
Well, okay. Donald's already in here. This is Donald. Donald Walton is a lawyer. Excuse me. I believe here in Southern Arizona. I think he's got a disclaimer he needs to do before we go on the show, and then he can tell us anything about himself he'd like us to know before we get started.
So here's the disclaimer. So the information and conversations that we're going to have today are for informational purposes only. The information provided does not create an attorney-client relationship. Every state and jurisdiction has its own laws and regulations. If you need guidance, you should seek advice from somebody familiar with your specific facts and circumstances and is licensed in your specific jurisdiction to provide that advice to you.
Very good. So the name of your organization is Private Path LLC. Is that correct?
That's correct. So just a brief introduction. My name's Donald Walton. I'm an attorney. I'm a 20-year Navy vet. I just received my
Go Army, beat Navy.
Anyway. I'm not so certain about that. But hey, so after 20 years, I got out, got my bachelor's degree because I was an enlisted man. So I got my bachelor's degree and went to law school, became an attorney. Downhill, path that whole way. I don't know what to tell you. But that's me in a nutshell. I have pets. I am a pet owner, and I'm licensed to practice law in Arizona, New Mexico, and Colorado as well. So that's me in a very short nutshell. And I believe we're here to talk about pets and pet trusts. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. That's something I've never heard of because I didn't know that people really included that in their trusts and that it was necessary.
Well, are they necessary? That's kind of a binding question. That necessary is depending upon the person that's making that assumption. If your pets are such a giant part of your life, and my pets are a very giant part of my life, necessary may be necessary. And other people, it may not be. Necessary is something that is a very has very, like, the term is very, it's like saying need, right?
It's subjective.
So I need this. Well, right. It's subjective. And do you need something? That's a hard question to answer, but can it be useful is a better question. And it can absolutely be useful. Right. So if you want, I can go through some very general, legally speaking terms, kind of break it down in what I hope is a very understandable way, if you guys would like.
Absolutely.
Okay. So what we're discussing today is pets and what happens to them after you have gone or become incapacitated. So in general, legally speaking, a pet is property. Now, we don't all feel that way, and I don't feel that my pet is really property as much as I feel like they're a part of my family. But in a legal sense, pets are property. And just as you cannot give money to the pencil you own, you can't give money to your pet. The pet doesn't have any concept of money, doesn't know how to do it, doesn't know how to use it to take care of itself. So therefore, you cannot leave money to an animal. What you can do is you can put money aside for that animal to be cared for and fed and loved on. You are allowed to do that, to take care of your animal when you're incapacitated or when you have passed away. And there are a couple of ways to do that. To ensure that's done, you should have documentation that directs what you want done with your pet, right? Some people that's a will, some people that's a power of attorney, some people that's a trust, and some people it's all three. You can do all three at once to make sure all the bases are covered. Is it necessary? Again, I'm going to put it out. It may be useful, but it may not always necessary. So that's the general landscape of why a pet trust may be important. Okay.
How popular are they? Do a lot of people do these? Is it something that's not very mainstream that needs more information put out there about them? What's the general consensus on that?
Well, I believe the general consensus is that if you know about trusts, you may have an inkling about pet trusts. But the reality is a very select subset of people know about trusts at all. And then inside that subset would be the people that know about pet trusts. I believe there needs more education on these things. The problem you have is that most people say, well, I don't have enough assets for a trust, or I have a very simple estate. In my opinion is there's no estate that's really simple, right? And this is just my opinion, because when you die and what happens with your estate and your real legacy are complex, because there's complex relationships in every life, right? And if you leave a little money lying around, people want that asset, that money, that cash. They want to improve their lives through what they may consider their right to have your stuff after you're gone. So that's where estate planning comes in. And estate planning can help you with your pets when you're gone, because some people own pets that live a long, long time. Tortoises can be 150 years old. Parrots can live 50, 60 years. Yep. And so they get really popular among that group. But if you got a puppy when you're, toward your life expectancy, coming up, then your puppy might outlive you. Or worse yet, an accident happens. You're perfectly healthy, but you go out and an asteroid comes down and you're gone. Well, who's taking care of your stuff then? And that's where a trust or a good estate plan can come into play.
Now, if you pass unexpectedly, and for example, I have a living will and trust, but I do not believe my pet is listed in there. But if I pass unexpectedly, would my pets be subject to probate court, or would they just be taken to a shelter by local law enforcement?
Well, this is so again, every jurisdiction is going to be dependent, and your specific circumstances are going to dictate a lot of things. So not having read your documents, I do not feel comfortable giving you advice on what's going to happen with your pets. But in general, there's a thing called intestate, where you may have heard of a last will and testament. Mm-hmm. So if you have something like that, or a trust or some version thereof, that's a testamentary document. That means that you've made a testament to take effect after you're gone. Trusts can be one of these documents. So what happens with your estate is, as property, pets are considered property. They fall into your estate. That estate will be either intestate, meaning you do not have a will or a trust or some other testamentary document saying how to dispose of your property. And in that case, a court, your heirs, your loved ones may make those determinations for you, and those might have to be validated in the court through the court probate system, but they may not. It just depends on your local rules and what you've set up and what's not. So if you've so some trusts say that all of my residuary, meaning everything I own when I was gone, that's not included specifically in my wishes, passes to certain people, then your pets, if they're not specifically talked about, may pass through the residuary to your beneficiaries or heirs at the time. So again, this can be very complex, but it's really not that complex if you apply just some logic that the pets are considered property. Now, again, I love my pets. They're not really property, they're family. But, legally speaking, and how the courts construe them, is their property. Same as if you owned 100 head of cattle. You wouldn't consider cattle as your property unless that happens to be your pet. But it's the same kind of concepts.
Okay.
Did that kind of answer your question? Or it left it a lot open, I understand, but I can't give specifics in this instance because, again, I'm not your attorney and I don't know your specific documents. So it's really hard for me to give you a legal outlook on that. But again, we have to consider it just like property. We have to think about it in a property sense, and that because that's how the court's going to consider it.
Right. So in that sense as well. So I know that true service dogs that are trained to detect seizures and that kind of stuff. I'm sure that's probably a big part of that because they're very expensive to train into the service and all that. Whether it's PTSD or seizures or heart problems or whatever. Do you encounter that a lot?
I a lot is again an undefined term. It's really hard for see, I do that attorney thing where I'm going to caveat everything. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
But what I'm going to say is I encounter it frequent enough among that group that it does bleed over into when I do an estate plan. When I do an estate plan, I have older people and younger people who go, well, this is really a family member. And then we start talking about what to include. And you can include a lot of things. This is what's great about a pet. So our pet trust. So a trust in general is a private agreement that says how property is controlled and managed and who benefits from it. That's what a trust is. This is generally a private agreement that does not have to be filed or go through the probate process or court processes. Probate, just in case somebody doesn't know, is essentially a court case determining who can receive money or property from an estate. And that's just essentially in this case. Their probate courts do other things, but in this essence, it's just for that. And a pet trust can either be a standalone trust or it can be included as a sub-trust of your trust. A pet trust is specifically deals with your pet or pets if you have multiples, and it can determine not just who cares for them, but how they care for them. If they need certain supplements, or if they have to have food, you get to set up those rules yourself. It's very, very, very customizable. You can designate a certain amount of money, or you can say a certain percentage of my estate takes care of them. And if there's a problem with that, the court can say, well, you've designated too much money for the trust, so we have to take some of that away. There's people that have left $300,000, and I'm speaking in hyperbole, meaning but there's people that have left a lot of money that the courts have come back and said, well, you don't need that much money to do this, so we're going to take some of it and put it back in the rest of your estate. But if you don't leave enough money, then you may run out of funds to take care of your pet when you're gone. So every one of those is going to be a customized thing of how much do you leave or what's a good amount. But so the pet trust can determine that. It can determine who is in charge. It can also say, hey, I want the person that's in charge of my stuff after I'm gone to make that determination on where my pet goes permanently. You can set up a pet trust that says, okay, this amount of money to take care of my pets. If my pets find a permanent home, then this money goes to that person for the rest of my pet's life. But You can also say that they don't get to have a permanent home. It will always be the trustee coming in and checking on them and making sure they're good to go. So because the trustee has a responsibility to the trust. Trustee, by the way, is a term meaning manager of a trust. So when you set up a trust, there are three parties. There's the person that benefits from it, the person that controls it. So the benefit person that benefits is the beneficiary, and the person that controls it's the trustee. And then the person that makes it is called either the grantor, the trustor, or trust maker, some version thereof. And so those are the parties in the trust. In this case, a pet trust benefits the pet, not the trustee, not the other beneficiaries. It's literally there to make sure the pet's needs are met. Okay, so and those are some broad overviews. If you guys have questions, I'm going to point you to the statutes in your specific jurisdictions. If you ever want to look at them, Arizona's is ARS 142907, New Mexico's 46A4408, and Colorado's Article 11, Section 1511901. But if you just read them, they're not going to give you a lot of guidance, because that's what's great about a trust. Is a trust is the part that gives you that determination on what happens, when it ends, how it gets handled, what happens to the rest of the money when your pets are gone.
Now, you said earlier that, obviously there has to be a manager of the estate or a manager of the trust, because the pets don't have the ability to manage the money themselves. But what if your horse is like Mr. Ed, and he's talking and he has his own desires as to what he wants to do?
Then we need to enter into a partnership agreement on how we're going to manage that asset, specifically me and you, to go get rich. Because, if I meet Mr. Ed, me and him are going to Hollywood again. I'm just saying, it's just going to. Well, okay, so there is never going to be a time when you're going to have a pet that can manage their own assets. It's just right. With some exceptions of Mr. Ed, maybe the parrot from Pirates of the Caribbean, Mr. Cotton's pirate, maybe that one, but
maybe, yeah,
I doubt that. And please, everybody understand, I'm speaking in hyperbole, not literally.
Right. Well, so maybe you have or have not encountered this, but say that the pet is actually like a service dog, police or military, and those are designated and trained by one person and they live with them their entire life.
Right.
Is that something that because they're trained very specifically, and when that owner passes away, they have to be treated way differently than just a regular cat or dog or parrot. So expound on that for me.
So when you have everything it depends. When you have specific needs for a pet, it is a good idea in general to make accounts for that in your documents that says this is how this pet has to be treated. If you just, hey, I have a cat. Well, we know cats are pretty self-sufficient. They need to be fed, have a place to poop, and somebody to clean it out every now and then. And other than that, they're pretty much come and go as they will. They generally own us more than we own them. But so you can get away with something like just a general cat without having a lot of rules in place in your documents that say this is how to do it. If you have very specific needs for your pet, you typically should be considering adding those specific needs to be addressed into your documents so that they're set in stone, because your person that's going to take care of your pet, the trustee that's going to take care of the situation, needs to understand that these are the rules that I need him to go by. And they can't make guesses at that, because if you leave it blank, they're going to do what they think is right. Now, you can give them a lot of leeway that way, or you can set the rules to have it done. If your service agreement with your pet says that this pet has to go to a specific charity, then you should probably have that addressed in your documents so that they know. A very good estate plan should cover these kind of circumstances, right? And an estate plan is not one document. It's not, just one thing. An estate plan is the full coverage. And if you have just one document, I just have a will. Okay, well, then you're leaving everything else kind of up in the air, right? I just have a trust. Well, do you just have a trust, or do you have other documents that support that trust? I have a trust. It's got 3 sub-trusts. Okay, now we're getting to it. Why? What else do you have? Are all these things in place to support your decision making and your agreements after you're gone or when you become incapacitated? Because a trust is valid the moment it's executed and funded, right? So you want to make sure that those things that are in the trust or that need to be addressed are addressed in the trust specifically. And this is why trusts are very customized, right? And why they're not the least expensive thing in the world. Although, in Arizona, they can run the gamut from very, very, very low to very, very, very high expenses. You want to make sure that your trust, when you have a trust, is customized to specifically your set of circumstances. So if you have an agreement with the people that provided you a service animal, that the animal has to be returned to them if something happens to you, or B, it needs to go to a specific charity to provide for that dog's retirement. All of those things should be addressed in a good estate plan that supports your goals.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, just like, your parents get old and if they need to be put into care or whatever, it's almost the same principle, but just for your pet, it sounds like. It
is. And a good estate plan, and by no means am I comparing people to pets, because those are different. Legally, those are different things. But there are trusts in place that if you can no longer make a decision, say you inherited a trust from your parents, and you get to the point where you can't have capacity anymore, then that doesn't mean you don't get to benefit from the trust, but somebody else gets to make those decisions. And those decisions, when you make those decisions come with sometimes consequences. So, but it's the same concept. Just because you're incapacitated doesn't mean you get to benefit. So, and that same happens with your parents. When your parents become incapacitated, let's say somebody's parents, they had a trust. The trust named other people to take over for them when they become incapacitated. Well, your parents got older, or those parents got older, and they went into private nursing. They can no longer take care of themselves. They can't make the decisions. Well, the trustee has the duty to take, according to their documents, if their documents say it, to take their assets and provide the benefit of those assets to your parents. And the same thing's going to happen here. The trustee, the manager of the trust, has a duty to provide benefits to the beneficiaries. And in this case, that would be the pets. So that all has to happen. That happens whether you're a beneficiary as a parent, beneficiary as a child, beneficiary as a pet.
Now, I have a super unrelated question for you.
Sure.
Are the bison anything official, or is that just your emblem or your symbol? Or
it's a good question. So I'm Native American. I am Cherokee. I'm a citizen of the Cherokee Nation, and my uncle named me, and part of my name is Buffalo in Cherokee, which is Yunsa. So I have a lot of buffalo in my office.
Nice. I like it. Are you a Buffalo Bills fan?
Absolutely not. Let's just say that my team, how do I say this without getting too much about it? My team has had some pretty horrible years recently, and I just support them anyway, which is, sometimes it's a grind in the gut, but, I'm down. Go Cowboys.
Hey, my boys are 1-0 so far. They had a good preseason though.
No, they're 2-2 or 1-1.
Oh, they're 1-1.
I love my boys. I got lucky when I was still in the military. I was able to take a picture, a selfie, on the center star in the middle of Texas Stadium before they tore it down.
Oh, that's cool.
The old stadium. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
That's cool. That's old school right there. That was a long time ago. How many
oh, yeah.
years
My wife
that
was very
been?
jealous.
That's
She's a
like
big.
8 years, 10 years.
Oh,
something
that
like
was 2000 and it was a while back. No, it was. I was recruiting 2006 to 2009, so it was sometime in that
Wow,
time frame.
almost 20
So,
years.
Yeah, we're pushing it.
Well, it goes by like
But
that. So.
oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah, those are that's some pet trust stuff in a nutshell. I did 20 years in the military as an enlisted man. I did it the hard way. Came in as an E1 and left as an E6, and then went to law school.
So all of your law training came after the military. So you were never JAG.
No, I was never JAG, but not quite accurate. I did some legal training in the military.
Okay.
When you're deployed on a U.S. Navy ship, there's times when you just got time on your hands. It's just the nature of the beast because you can't work 24 hours a day. So I took a couple of law courses when I was out to sea. I did well in those. I enjoyed them. One of the main reasons I became an attorney is because I had taken a couple of philosophy classes, and critical thinking is a very big part of being an attorney. But being a philosopher doesn't pay well at all, hardly ever. So I'm like, well, I guess I'll just try to be an attorney.
Right. You can ask Aristotle and Socrates how they feel about that too.
Right. I'll go dig up their bones. We'll figure it out. So, any other questions? I'm all about answering questions.
If somebody struggles to read legalese, because legalese can be quite a chore to read,
It is.
You've provided, information for them to look up their statutes, but if they need help interpreting that, what would you recommend? A simple Google search? Would most attorneys do like a free consultation on that? What they don't understand? What would you recommend?
So my recommendation in this regard is seek legal advice, right? Seek an attorney, and you can Google. You're able to Google anything. I can't tell you don't Google. What I'm going to say is, if you're not comfortable with the information you've found, talk to an attorney who can help you interpret that information. Some attorneys offer free consultations. I do sometimes. Sometimes I don't. It just depends on the situation and what's going on. But yeah, seek legal counsel, because they are, and find one you're comfortable with. Somebody that you can relate to, that you can hear, that can break down what the legalese is into something that you can understand, a manageable bite. They should really be trying to teach you what you need to know, versus just talking to you at this level that you can't understand. Being in the legalese part of it is interesting for me, but I'm a dork. I'm the biggest dork I know. I enjoy reading legal briefs and the Supreme Court decisions and all of that really dry reading that nobody really gets into except for people like me. And then I also enjoy talking to people, so I like to be able to make that link between the legalese and the everyday understanding. But you can Google search, and that's always a great resource to give you some basic knowledge, but you have to learn how to be comfortable either with that or find somebody who can make you comfortable with what you're understanding, especially if it's going to be a decision that's going to impact you legally. I definitely recommend seeking legal advice. You can do a lot of things on your own, but be careful. If you're not aware of the pitfalls, they can be very easy to fall into, and they can be very deep.
Oh, I'm sure.
Do you have an example of that you can speak of?
I could probably find a few. I've read a few. They're not hard to find. You can look them up on YouTube. You can go to, different people. But yeah, people fall into legal traps really easy, especially when it comes to like contracts. And let's be honest, what is a trust? A trust is a contract, and a pet trust is just a contract about pets, right?
Right.
It's very easy to fall into a legal hole there if you're not careful. So again, the best advice I'm going to give you when you're talking about any kind of legal decision or contractual decision is seek legal advice. See if you can get some free consultations. If you can't afford it, and let's be honest, attorneys are expensive, then maybe find somebody who can do pro bono work. In Arizona, there's different places that help. One is Southern Arizona Legal Aid. There are veterans. The VA sometimes provides some stuff. Matter of fact, I've done work where we've done pop-up VA clinics out at the VA clinic here in Tucson. And I do pro bono work sometimes. But it's not every time, and it's actually pretty rare when I do pro bono work because I have to make a living at this, and I have my own firm. So every minute I take away from earning money is literally taking money and the ability to pay bills out of my family's pocket. So, while I do pro bono work, I generally do it through some kind of legal services option. Which is the VA or the University of Arizona. Sometimes they can provide legal advice depending on the situation. But I would absolutely find somebody that's qualified and licensed in your specific area that can interpret those laws for you.
Now, you may not know the answer to this, but if the animal is considered a pet, but also provides a profit, something like a horse, you have a working ranch, you have a horse, the horse provides profit, you have a petting zoo, the animals provide profit. Is it possible to get some kind of insurance or life insurance policy to replace those animals for the need of the work should they pass? I know it sounds like a silly question, but when you think about it in those terms.
Well, you exactly, that's the right way to think about it. While you may love your plow horse, you may love old Bessie that provides milk every day, doesn't mean that Bessie or your old plow horse are actually pets, or are they livestock or some version thereof. So my understanding, and take this with a grain of salt, again, I'm not an insurance provider, is that you can get insurance on almost anything. Mm-hmm. If you have, just like if, let's say you own a business that provides delivery of goods, and you get insurance on your car because that's your livelihood, you should absolutely get insurance.
Nope, we froze up there for a second.
Are you back?
We're back. We missed you. You're talking about getting insurance on the car for livelihood, and then you froze up.
And so it's the same concepts. So if you have, and ranchers and farmers do this, I believe, quite well. When they have a herd, they'll insure the herd, especially if they know something that might be coming up down the road, right? If the almanac and whatnot predicts a hard winter, they may insure the herd to ensure their livelihood. This is the same kind of concept you want to do there, right? Again, seek out a good insurance provider. See if, and again, it's going to be like hiring an attorney. You want to make sure that you're comfortable with these people and that you can have that open discourse about what you need and what they can provide. And again, before you enter in, my general personal advice is before you enter into any contract, whether that be an insurance contract or something else, seek legal advice regarding it. Read it carefully and closely and try to understand it. Sometimes that's not always able to be done because, hey, you need to sign the contract. But sometimes, just be careful because you may not be getting what you think you're getting. So again, seek appropriate advice in those kind of situations. But yeah, you can, as far as my understanding is, you can get insurance for anything.
Yeah, I mean, because when you think about it, like I say, it sounds like It sounds like a silly question, but when you think about it, if you have a ranch, for example, where you teach horseback riding lessons, excuse me, where you use your horses as part of the profit for the ranch, that in essence is your income. It's like having a delivery vehicle, as you were saying. That so if something happens to that horse, you're less able to make income because that asset is injured or not able to live anymore. And so, you know,
That's a great point. And actually, that rubs up against the whole pet trust overview that we were talking about. So while getting prepared for this, I was looking through my preparation material, and I saw there's at least one, and I'm pretty sure if there's one that I found kind of running into it, there's multiples of places where you can actually have them fund essentially an insurance plan to your trust, so that when you pass away, your insurance pays to your pet trust to take care of your pet for as long as they're alive. So there's absolutely that. Additionally, you should have insurance typically on anything that's going to provide you and your loved ones an income, right? Because that makes sense. That's the whole point of insurance.
Yep.
So I'm glad you mentioned that, because of but you want to make sure that all of these things add up together to get you to the goal that you need, which may be, in this case, taking care of your pets for the rest of their lives. And it may be just making sure that your livestock has the insurance needed to, hey, we need to provide medical care because they ran into this minor issue. It's not going to kill them, but we need to have it taken care of so that we can get back to full production when I'm gone. Additionally, there's incapacity issues. So trusts are good when you're incapacitated. They're not just good when you pass away. Who's taking care of your kids and your dogs and your cats and all that when you're gone? Those are all considerations when you're making these kind of things in your trust.
Sure. Anthony, do you have anything else? I think my brain is full. This was awesome.
Well, I'm glad I gave you guys a lot to think about,
Well,
and hopefully a lot to
I'd
tease
love
me
to
about
have
later.
an expanded conversation on this one day, honestly, because I'm very interested in lawfare. I pay close attention to a lot of stuff that's going on internationally and nationally, and it's good to hear somebody that can translate it well. I think is the most important part.
Well, I appreciate that compliment. I'll take it. I can translate it. I'm not sure if it's always well, but I do my best. Right. At the end of the day, just trying to get to where more people understand what's going on is one of the things that I try to do. But yeah, anything else you guys need, you feel free to reach out to me and let me know. But if you don't mind, I'd like to make a plug of my business.
Absolutely.
Please do.
Okay. Well, again, my name is Donald Walton. I'm an attorney, and my business is Private Path LLC. It's a law firm, and we provide estate planning along with other legal services.
Very good. How can people reach you?
You can reach me at my website. My website is www.privatepathlc.com, or you can email me at info@privatepathlc.com, and that's going to be the easiest way to get a hold of me.
Very good. Very good. Well, I'm going to plug Deb one more time. Again, thanks for coming on, Donald. That was really educational for me, and very exciting. I hope maybe we can do this again sometime. Maybe a different topic even would be fun for me. But in the meantime, go to debspets.com. That's DEBSPETS.com. And go support us there. And then you can also go to the World of Pets podcast for supporting our engineer, Emily Gomer. Hope to see you next week. And Anthony, I'm going to let you row the boat all the way down the river.
Well, as always, thank you for being with us and for listening and letting us be a part of your week and day this week. As always, you matter to us and you matter to your creator. You're fearfully and wonderfully made. So if you are in need of talking and any type of support, please reach out to us. We'd rather have a 2:30 or 3 a.m. conversation with you than to hear your name on the headlines the following morning. So please feel free to reach out to us.
Very good. With that, I'll say God bless. Thanks again.